This video is sponsored by DraftKings. The Rockies as a franchise have had a lot of batting titles. I don't think I'm surprising any of you by saying this, so let me say something that might. In their now 30-year history, the Rockies have had more batting titles than postseason wins. I don't even have to verify that they're the only team to be able to lay claim to this feat. It's just a feat so absurd, there's no way any other franchise could don the same bizarre achievement. So, what's the deal with the Rockies having so many batting titles? Well, the high-level explanation is that the Rockies play at a high level, 5,211 feet above sea level to be more precise. The next closest is their geographical rival Diamondbacks, who play at an altitude almost 5 times lower than the Rockies do. So how exactly does playing at a high altitude translate to running the ranks on batting titles? Well, the answer is twofold. See, the higher you go, the less air pressure you experience. Lack of air pressure reduces two forces that play a vital role in determining the movement of a baseball: drag force and Magnus force. Magnus force is basically what is being manipulated by pitchers every time they spin a breaking ball, while drag force is acting against a baseball once it's hit in the air. Simply put, reduction in drag force causes balls to be hit further. Without drag force, a baseball that carries 400 feet would carry about 700. The Rockies tried to counter this by giving Coors the largest dimensions of any ballpark in the major leagues. The only issue is that it means there is a lot of ground to cover, and teams not named the Melonheads can only realistically deploy 3 outfielders to cover that ground. So, the unintended consequence is a sizable increase on average for balls in play. Add the reduction in Magnus force, which causes breaking pitches to be less effective. So, pitchers who have a breaking ball in their tool belt, aka all of them more or less, have to go out and use what is essentially a nerfed pitch, making the jobs of the hitters all the more easier. The result of these factors is a stadium that has had gaudy offensive numbers over the years, and consequentially has produced a bounty of batting titles to come from the Mile High City. Many in the game question the legitimacy of these batting titles. I'm not here to write a 10-page thesis on whether or not winning a batting title in a Rockies uniform should come with its own asterisk. I just think it would be fun to rank all 11 batting titles using a few key metrics. Now, a question I know you're all asking is, what do these rankings mean? Are we talking about the best overall seasons from these players? Well, no, because then I could just use some version of wins above replacement and call it a day. The most legitimate batting titles? Sort of. I'm using metrics that analysts would use when questioning the legitimacy of a player's hitting performance. Let me explain what I'm ranking them on, and I'll let you decide for yourself. But first, and to be candid here, it brings me so much joy to say these 5 words. A message from our sponsor. Man, I love baseball.
It's such a cool sport.
But I wish I had a way to be able to engage with the game more.
Me too.
Hey you! Oh my god, is that the left fielder for
Redacted.
talking to me? That's right. Wait, where's your hat? I left it in the dugout.
Yeah, that's understandable, buddy.
I overheard you wishing that you were able to engage with the game more. DraftKings allows you to be more engaged as a fan by wagering on any game of your choosing. In fact, if you're looking to swing an even bigger payout, DraftKings has got you covered with same-game parlays, where you can combine multiple bets from the same game into one big bet. Fantastic! If mobile sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. You can still get on the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy, where they offer cash prize contests for nearly every sport.
That sounds awesome.
And even better, if you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, new customers use promo code FIELDERS to bet $5 on any wager and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code FIELDERS only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Cool. 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 Watch out!
Great catch.
No. This is a great catch. Yeah. Wow! Thank you!
Redacted.
I'm the greatest athlete of all time. Okay, so our metrics. What am I using to determine the best Coors batting title? To start, we have the average itself. Yeah, just how high was the average? Simple? Yeah. Too simple? Yeah, probably. Next up is wins above replacement. How much were these players adding value to their team? I want to know. I think it's important. I also couldn't decide between using Reference WAR or Fangraphs WAR, so I just averaged both together. Whoops. Then we have Road TOPS Plus. TOPS Plus is basically a stat that weighs a player's performance from their batting line against one of their splits. You can take a TOPS Plus from anything. It's a really fun, stupid little stat. You can measure TOPS Plus road versus home, righties versus lefties, first half versus second half. Seriously, if you have an afternoon to burn, I totally recommend going to a random baseball reference page and looking up a player's TOPS Plus. Anyway, where was I? Road TOPS Plus. I want to know how much of a Coors merchant a player was that season. The higher the Road TOPS Plus, the less reliant on the Coors launchpad they were. Next up are two metrics that determine the sustainability of these players' performances. Quiz time. If you want to raise your average, what is something you should probably cut down on? Okay, good answer. Now, what is something you should raise if you want to have a high average? If you guessed strikeout rate and walk rate respectively, you passed my quiz. And really, you did a great job. I'm proud of you, champ. Now here's your degree. I wanted to use these to determine the real underlying numbers behind their batting titles. I'm more inclined to believe in the legitimacy of their inflated average if there are strong walk and K rates supporting it. So last but certainly not least, we have highest non-Rockies average. I wanted to veer away from a player's resume outside the season in question to rank these titles, but I couldn't help myself. What better way to see if their batting title holds its worth in salt than by seeing what they do out of the barren confines of Coors Field? Now, I know what you're saying. Two of the players on this list played their entire career in a Rockies uniform. So to counteract that, I just took the third highest non-batting title average of their career and used that as a placeholder. Is it the most nuanced way to work around this issue? No. But look, if you wanted a super empirical analysis, read a book. To reiterate, the only setting I recommend using this video to settle a debate in is a Buffalo Wild Wings. So I took these metrics and ranked each individual season with them. I then used some third grade math to get a corresponding value. Additionally, I weighed each metric. Obviously, I'm not that daft. I'm not going to pretend that the highest non-Rockies average should weigh as much as Road TOPS Plus for the season in question. Here are the weights I used. Sorry if you disagree with them, your formal apologies in the mail. From there, I just added up the values and had my results. Kind of. There's one last hiccup I would have felt wrong not including in my calculations. See, in 2002, the Rockies decided to start storing their baseballs in a humidor, which had the effect of slightly increasing both the drag and Magnus forces we discussed earlier. This had a significant impact on the overall offense we saw at Coors. Its park factor went from a rolling value of 120 in 2001 all the way down to a rolling value of 106 in 2008. Even in my bar napkin analysis, I would have felt the results got cheated if I didn't somehow incorporate this into the calculations. So I gave a slight penalty to all pre-humidor seasons. If it makes you feel better, it didn't really affect the overall results by that much. And there we have it. Showed you the sloppy method, so now let's view these even sloppier results. Sit back. As always, gonna curate some nice music and talk through what we found. Poor Cargo. He was one of the players I was most excited to talk about, and here he is washing up on the shore before we even step foot into the water. Where he got especially burned was on K rate. The thing is, his K rate wasn't even that bad, but it was also worst on his team for qualified hitters that year. There are actually two other players on this list that had their team's worst K rate. Can you guess who they are? We often think about Coors' effect on batted balls, but the reduction in strikeouts is real too. In fact, only 5 qualified starters in Rockies history have averaged a K per 9 above 9, with the highest being German Marquez in 2018 with 10.56, which was good enough for 11th in the majors that year. Wow, for someone who really wanted to talk about Carlos Gonzalez, I'm doing a really poor job of talking about Carlos Gonzalez. He really didn't perform well in any other metrics besides WAR. A 30-20 season while playing a third of your games in center will do that for you. I do feel bad that he placed last in the non-Rockies average department since he only played 130 games not in a Rockies uniform. I thought about using the lifelong Rocky clause and taking his third highest non-batting title average, but it actually didn't make a difference with the guy above him. Speaking of, yes, the other left-handed Rockies outfielder who won a batting title and tried to play in center field despite not having the range to man Coors' vast outfield. Blackmon didn't really excel in any metrics here, while absolutely nosediving when it came to his road TOPS+. To put it into 1927 Yankees terms, he was basically Babe Ruth at home and Pat Collins on the road. One metric that I didn't use but felt was worth bringing up just because I'm honestly surprised this season ranked so low. Blackmon's 2017 has the second most hits out of every season on this list and was a triple shy of tying the single season record for most three-baggers in a Rockies uniform. Maybe one of my favorite baseball nicknames, Big Cat. What kind of cat? I don't know. Could be an oversized house cat, could be a panther. Even though he ranks low on this, Galarraga has maybe one of the best stories behind his batting title. Andres signed with the Expos as an 18-year-old out of Venezuela. He was touted as a can't-miss power bat, and while he had a few good years with the Expos, winning a Silver Slugger during an All-Star campaign in 1988, never fully cashed in on the power potential before sinking into the pits of mediocrity from 1990 to 1992, becoming a free agent after. The expansion Rockies decided to take a chance and write him into their history books as their first ever free agent signing. It paid off for both sides as he hit brilliantly in Denver's thin air to the tune of a .370 average. He would join the club of players who perform much better into their 30s than their 20s. The latest addition to this club is going to be Yandy Diaz, by the way. In terms of his metrics, he suffers most with a low walk rate, which was actually his career worst in a full season. Hey man, when nearly 40% of balls in play are falling for hits, you better be swinging that bat. Also, I know the inclusion of this entry invalidates the title of this video, since the Rockies actually played at Mile High Stadium until 1995. I am very sorry if this bothers you. Please write me a nasty comment. This one I expected to be lower. No offense to Michael Cuddyer, but his previous career high average was .284. Nothing about this season on the surface stood out to me. But he excelled in one area. His road TOPS plus was great compared to others on this list. He managed an 852 OPS on the road in 2013. Hey, that's pretty good. Not to punch down, but Cargo had a 775 on the road in his banner season. I'm not saying that it's unplayable because it is playable, but we aren't screaming in reverence at that number, while Cuddyer's would get you down ballot MVP votes if you had some other tricks up your sleeve. Speaking of, where Cuddyer falls short is in wins above replacement. And let's just say the 34-year-old was pretty much a DH on a National League team by this point. Still, kudos to Twins legend Cuddyer for showing that he knows how to hit no matter how high the stadium is, even if he did lead his team in strikeout percentage. I have a confession to make. I never liked Matt Holliday as a player growing up. I have no idea why. Nothing about his game excited me. But in retrospect, I realized that I did not give him the credit he deserves. First, in stats I didn't use but feel a need to mention, he's the first person on this list who led the league in RBIs on his way to a batting title, giving him the duopolis superiority of stats that people don't care about anymore. Which, there's a good reason as to why. He also cranked 50 doubles that year and was 3 hits away from tying the Rockies single season record. Okay, so wait, why did this season come middle of the pack? Well, probably because he was just middle of the pack in everything. Maybe that's why I didn't like him all that much. He never stood out among the game's best. He's kind of like the Pearl Jam of baseball players. But he did go on a tear in the last month of the season, slugging a Bonzian 789 to eventually lead to the glory that was Rocktober. Sweet, the part where we talk about the trilogy of Larry Walker batting titles. Look, you know who Larry Walker is. I know who Larry Walker is. The Canadian Dragon, at least that's what I call him. One of only 13 players to finish his career with a 300, 400, 500 slash line. Very glad that he's finally a Hall of Famer because it was becoming very annoying waking up every morning and getting on online chat boards trying to convince anonymous users with names like Akira Fan 1237 and Doug Glanville's My Daddy 6 that Larry Walker's plaque belonged in Cooperstown. Anyway, so why was this the lowest Larry Walker season? Well, his road to OPS Plus wasn't up to snuff. He's a fraud! Take him out of the hall! Just kidding. But yes, road to OPS Plus is the main culprit, and you know, his 363 average really wasn't cutting it to make up the difference. Does anybody remember the story behind this one? You know, when Rockies manager Walt Weiss sat DJ for the final weekend of the season to secure his player's batting title? But no, it's okay, because the runner-up, Daniel Murphy, was also not playing due to injury. Yeah, sure, okay. Even DJ, in his own reserved way, seemed to disagree with Weiss's decision. It's not like the Rockies were playing for anything other than another notch on their 9-studded belt. They lost that series to the Brewers, by the way, only scoring 11 runs over 3 games. But it doesn't matter, I guess, as DJ won a batting title for the Yankees in the 2020 season, which, by the way, thank you for asking, I did not count as the highest non-Rockies average. Even then, he hit a crisp 327 for the Yankees in 2019, giving him the honors for highest true non-Rockies average for anyone on this list. So 2001 Larry Walker had a lot going for him, but his K rate was pretty high, like strangely high, to a point where it was something of an outlier for his time as a Rocky, not counting a 1996 season that was cut short by injury. It was also his highest walk rate as a Rocky until 2003, so maybe he was just letting the winds of fate blow in his direction, which both rewarded and punished him. He's also the second answer to the highest K rate on team, so, you know, good for you if you got that one. This is it. The ultimate Larry Walker season. Okay, 1997 was his best season, barely losing a batting title to Tony Gwynn, who was the only human being at the time able to counteract the Coors effect. Okay, but this was his next best season. Nah, actually, that was the entry above 2001. But his third best. No, that's actually 2002. Okay, fourth best without a doubt. Okay, you know what? WAR is a stupid stat that I've never used as a conceptual basis for anything. But this season does stand alone for a few reasons. One, he did secure a triple slash line crown, which is very impressive, Coors season or not. The other players on this list didn't do that. Hitting 379, which Coors pre-humidor or not, is almost as absurd sounding as that little factoid I dropped earlier in this video, and is the highest average posted in the National League since integration. Honestly, while the broker crossing their fingers for a Luis Arraez 400 season, it's not going to happen by the way, I'm going to be crossing mine for him to top Larry Walker's pre-humidor freak show average, which I do think is possible. Trust me, I wasn't expecting this either. Justin Morneau, with his 319 average, comes in at second. I see the pitchforks, I see the comments, but this can be easily explained by 2 or 3 metrics. First, best road to OPS Plus, barely edging former Twins compadre Michael Kadire. Seriously, Rockies, I know your analytics department is ran by 5-year-olds, so if you want some good dumb analytics, just sign former Twins. Trust me, there is going to be a glut of them who fit the billing. Max Kepler, Alex Kirilloff, Kyle Farmer. Keep your eyes peeled. But seriously, he hit very modestly in Coors while maintaining very similar numbers on the road. And he was able to maintain those numbers by posting a career best K rate. This wouldn't be the first time Justin Morneau has silently conjured an upset, but ultimately, he fell well short of the winner. Wow. Just wow. Okay, so I kept the actual total value hidden because I like to hold certain aspects of these types of videos behind the curtain. But this is runner-up Justin Morneau's final score. This is Todd Helton's. Morneau? Helton. Okay. Just to show how close all these were up to this point, last place Carlos Gonzalez, second place Justin Morneau, first place Todd Helton. No offense to his 2007 Rockies, but he virtually swept all the metrics. The only ones he didn't place first in were total average and road to OPS plus. He came in second. Okay, where do I even start? Well, he followed up Larry Walker's triple slash crown with one of his own, making the Rockies the first team to produce back-to-back triple slash crowns since the Red Sox produced them from 1947 to 48, with Ted Williams following up Theodore Samuel Williams. I know there's going to be some inherent controversy surrounding this, but his third highest non-batting title average was 336, which would tie Carlos Gonzalez on this list for highest batting title average. Also, his K and walk rates were clinically insane. He is only one of 5 players this century to post a slugging above 600 while striking out only once per 9 at-bats in a season. The other players on that list are Albert Pujols, Gary Sheffield, Moises Alou, and Barry Bonds. You expand to the 20th century, and you just wind up with a list of Hall of Famers, which got me thinking, why isn't Todd Helton in the Hall of Fame? That's right, this was secretly a Todd Helton Hall of Fame video this entire time. Todd Helton is a Hall of Famer. He's been on the ballot for 5 years now, and even though he is a virtual lock to get voted in next year, it's kind of insane that he hasn't been inducted already. I know we like to hoist Larry Walker as breaking the Coors curse when it comes to Hall of Fame voting, but be honest with me. If Larry Walker played his entire career in a Rockies uniform, do you still think he'd be a Hall of Famer? Okay, probably, yeah. But we need to see a lifetime Rocky in Cooperstown. Okay, now for some quick numbers that I got while drunkenly messing around in StatHead. Todd Helton is one of only 17 players since integration to post a 600 slugging 4 times or more in their career. 10 of those players are Hall of Famers. The rest aren't in the Hall because they're too cool to get inducted or something. Todd Helton is 15th in Jaws for first baseman, being flanked by Hall of Famers Eddie Murray and Willie McCovey. The only non-Hall of Famers above him are future ones in Mickey Cabs and Joey Votto, as well as Rafael Palmeiro, who would be there if he wasn't so damn cool. Todd Helton only struck out 100 times in a season once, and oh yeah, that fancy club I mentioned Larry Walker was a part of, Todd's in it too. His career road to OPS Plus, you know, that silly little stat that I've been using to determine how much of a Coors merchant these players really have been, was 80, which, not counting his 2000 season, would place him 4th among these players for that metric. Again, we are talking for his career. To put it back in Murderer's Row terms, in his career, he was Lou Gehrig at home and Hall of Famer Tony Lazzari on the road. Todd Helton was a generational hitter who just happened to play for the Rockies. I know we look to Larry for breaking the tropospheric ceiling, but he did have the benefit of proving he was a good player outside of Coors. Todd Helton doesn't have that. For whatever reason, he was punished for committing his life to a team that many disregard the offensive production of. Look at all these players behind him. They had virtually the same conditions, minus the humidor, and across the board, they weren't able to even come close to what Helton was able to do in 2000, let alone what he was able to accomplish in his prime. It's kind of like the Shohei Ohtani effect. To win the AL MVP, not only do you have to lead the pack, you have to lap it. Even among the ranks of absurd offensive output seen in Colorado, Todd Helton stands head and shoulders above the rest, and why I believe he is a Hall of Famer. Also, I ran a poll on Twitter and these were the results. That pretty much solidifies it. Thank you for watching and follow me on Twitter.